Okay, so back at it today. The last thing I had to do before I finished up the front end was put the sway bar in place and realized there was some missing paint. But then I realized I actually had to weld these little bungs into the end of the sway bar. So I stripped it back, welded those in, and now it is hanging there. So the next step is I've got to put in the front bushings, get those squared away. Now these have a little split in them, so I can stretch that up over the bar, and there's an offset, and the narrow section goes towards the front of the truck. So I'm going to go ahead and just whip those in. Then they simply go in the bracket, and then there's a plate that goes on the bottom to hold them all up in there, like so. And I'll show you what I've got in a minute. But yeah, so I've got to get out the energy suspension grease, work that over the right area, put that on the bar, and should be ready to bolt that up in. Okay, I flipped this over so you can get a slightly better look at it. The link from the lower A-frame looks like that, and then it's got a couple of, it's just a basic heim joint, and then this is how this bracket attaches. Now, I had to grind out my hole a little bit and slot it a little bit because when I put this bead of weld down through here, that held the bracket out a little bit. So if I did do it again, I would not weld the bottom of that. I would only weld the top and the T, the gusset. Or before you paint, grind that out good so that so your bracket clears, because your bracket is pretty much the width of that. This bracket is pretty much the width of your mount, so not a lot of play there. Anyway, okay, I think that about does it for this phase. I'm gonna flip this back over now, and I think the next thing I gotta do is take it off the rotisserie. And I got some cleaning to do before I can do that. So, gonna go ahead and just kind of get some of this cleared up. And yeah, I think I'm ready to move on from the front end and start working on the rear end. But again, I got to get this off the rotisserie to do that. I'll roll the rear end under, and I'll take you through that whole process. Okay, so next, I've got to get some paint on these tabs where they were underneath the brackets. I'll bring that down and get that ready to go. But the next step is to put the rear end into it. Now, I designed this stand so that when I'm ready to do this, I can take this top bolt out, flip these ears down out of the way, and it should come right onto the dog bone ears up here. So we're going to get ready to do that shortly. And then once that's down and locked in, I can take the bolts off the front of the stand and literally lift the rear end up off the stand. It should be very simple and straightforward. Should be. We'll see how that goes. But now I'm ready to give that a go. I might actually get some primer or something on these pads first, but we'll carry on. Now the rear end wants to naturally tilt with the passenger side a little higher than the driver's side when you first let it down, so I'm going to play on that a little bit. See if I can't use that to my advantage. Oh, I'm very close. Okay, let's get this lined up. It's going to be tight. The bushings fit in that face pretty tight. And I think I better go get the grease. Now, if I need to, I can use the Porta Power jaws to spread that bracket just a little bit. We'll decide if that needs to happen when I get there, but for right now, first thing I'm gonna do, now these bushings don't actually move on this. They just provide compliance, but might as well grease them up anyway. Just one more potential squeak. Like I said, if I need to get the Porta Power out, I can certainly do that. I have it all on the card already. This one looks like it's going to need the Porta Power. This one I got about 75 thou of overlap here. Yep. Okay, let me grab that and I'll bring you back. All right, now we're just gonna spread that out a little bit with the Porta Power and it should drop right on. It's gotta go like 75 thou. There we go. That's good. Give it an extra pump just to help it out when we take the Porta Power out. Okay, that's it. Hopefully you can see that well. Now I'll repeat that process on the other side, which is a little better. Okay, so I have the other side pinned now. Now I'm going to, hopefully you can still see that with myself in the way here. All right, pull this over so it's nice and lined up. There we go. Oh, it's so close. Come on, get up in there. Good test for my welds, if nothing else. Okay. Just give this a little bob right here. There it goes. Sorry you couldn't see that awesomeness. All right, now I've got to pull this back out because I think I'm hitting it. No, I'm not. There it is. Just threw a little strap on it. Decided to test it before I went back on camera and it slid right in. So that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna nut those up, pull off the two bolts here that are still holding it to the stand, and I can lift that up into the air and do the rest of it. So there we have it. Hopefully that all works good. Okay, now the cart can come out of the way. And I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that now. Hang it on the wall in the other bay or something. Till it's needed again. Okay, now what? Okay, next step is to put in the torque arm. I've got to prep some stuff, get the bolts rounded up, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so this has always been a bit of a question for me, is how this goes in. I'm hoping it didn't have to go on before I raised it up into the rear end, up into the chassis, but we're about to find out together. All right, first of all, let me just make sure this thing fits over the side. That would be a sucky. Okay, it fits over the rear end. That's good. That's an excellent thing. Shit. Have this. Oh boy. I may have a problem here. Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, I think that has to go in first. Damn it. Shit. Okay, so everything seems to line up okay, if I'm being honest. I've just got to figure out how to get this in there. Yeah. Screw up. This definitely should have went on the rear end before I lifted the rear end up into the frame. And now, with those ears the way they are, it's going to be a real bear to do this the right way. So, oh, wait a minute. Might have something here. Okay, hold on now. I could tap that in. Yes, I think that will go if I'm Gentile with it. You know, use the 2-pound slant hammer instead of the 10. Let me just see if I can start to work that in. Yeah, it's starting to work in. Looks like I'm going to dodge a bullet here. Okay, now, if I can just get that over a little more, out a little more, and get my alignment bar. Okay, so this is all set now. See if I can get a view of it here for you. So the torque arm is all bolted in. The only problem is the bolts I have are not long enough, and I've been looking for the bolts that came with the kit, only to realize no bolts came for that. So I've got to order some more bolts, a little longer than these. So yeah, that's good. Now, next step is I just got to hook up the trailing arms. I'm going to do that and then the shocks. And that baby's in. Okay, so for this deal, I had to I did the other side already. Fought me a little bit. Sorry about that. Yeah, the other side fought a little bit. I had to, when I realized the rear end was back far like this, I just had to pull it ahead a little bit with a strap and it came right into it. Decided to use the old transmission jack here to kind of lift it up into position. This worked slick. Just bring it up. You got to get it up a little bit first before you get started here. Then you can bring them down in. Like I said, I had to use a strap on the other side just to pull them in a little bit. Let me come up a little higher. But you can see what they want to do. Whoops. And I did spread these ears with the porta power just to get them to the right width. Now I should be able to just drag those in with a strap. So hang on, I'll get the strap hooked up and I'll show you how that looks. Okay, so I just hooked the strap down around the back and I'm just giving it a little tug. And you can see they're coming right into it. Looks like the bottom one's gonna line up first. Yep. I'm gonna use the stock bolts on these just because I think they're a little better. Okay. Now, just gonna run that in and use the threads to draw it in. Done. Okay, top one. And I just need my alignment bar. Maybe not. There we go. Just work the alignment bar in there. Get the angle of the dangle right. Slip the bolt in. Done. Well, we'll be done once I put the nuts on it. Okay, then I'll nut that up, tighten it down, and that part's done. Next is shocks. All right, so I threw the shocks in. That's the bracket that comes with the Nerd Rod kit. Down there, you can see what it does. It just bolts up. And then the top is pretty self-explanatory. Now, these are double adjustable QA1s. I put these on this way because I want to be able to get to the adjustment. The other ones I actually left the adjustment up top, so I put them on upside down. And looking at it from this angle, I'm not sure that was a smart move. So I may pull those back off and flip those over on the front. But yeah, so that's it. The shocks are done. All I have left to do is throw these little plugs in for the ABS sensors to block those holes off and get ready to move on to the next step, which is probably putting wheels and tires on this thing and set it on the ground. See what it looks like. We got a roller. We got a roller. So yeah, that'll be that, I guess. So yeah, let me keep moving on. There is a separate tie rod setup for the back that I got to put on yet. And I got to look that over. This setup works fine. I might just leave this in rather than go to the Heim joint setup. I don't really see any reason not to. These are, factory ends, so why not? But anyway, let me mess around with that and look it over and see which one, if it adds any benefit. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the rear end, other than those plugs, which I'll do next, and that the center toe links. So, all right, let's keep moving. Okay, so the next step here is we got to install the new toe links. To do that, you have to cut off these ears. I've already cut that one off, and I will grind it smooth and do all that once I get the second one off. But you got to remove those ears because these are the pivot points, and the rods effectively go right through the surface of that ear. The reason we have to do that, near as I can tell, is travel. With the existing stock system, the tie rod sits on top, and that gets very close to this bolt and frame affair up here at like 4 inches of travel, like 3.5 inches of travel. So I'm gonna implement that, cut it off. I'll bring you back when I've got that knocked off there. I'm just basically using a death wheel to do it. So stand by. Okay, that's it. Pretty simple setup. There's 2 plates, a couple of sleeves that mount through the middle. I did Loctite those. They actually have a hole here for a safety wire too, which I'll probably put on. Then you have to drill out the knuckle here to 5/8 to get this clearance for this bolt, because this is tapered for the old stock system. So drill that out to 5/8, put in your spacers and your Heim joint, and you're good to go. So that looks okay. Now I'm going to start working on the sway bar. And we'll get that as far as I can. I'm missing one piece. It might turn up today, but I will hopefully get as far as I can with it. So let's see what we got. Okay, so that's it. Rear end is in. I have slapped the shop wheels on it just to get myself some roll around ability. Boy, that bolt is awful close right there to that rotor. Got to keep an eye on that. Might have to put another spacer or lock watcher. But anyway, toe links in, sway bars in. I am going to wire these 2 bolts right here, because I've been warned those do tend to back out if you're not careful. I marked them, but I can't seem to find my wire yo-yo. But I think it might be down at the house. So I'm going to keep working on this. Yeah. And then I guess that's about it for this video. I'm thinking I may do hard lines, fuel delivery, the tank, all that stuff next. So it's a great time to do that. It's all wide open. You can see everything, do everything. It's just fine. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how this whole rear end comes together. If you got any questions, put them in the comments, but pretty simple design. Again, I took that shock off and fixed it, flipped it back up the way it's supposed to be, but I ran it up about 4 inches, which is probably more travel than you can get with this getup. But yeah, it seems to go through the arcs really nice. None of this is lined up or set up yet. That's why I put these wheels on, so I can use my plates right there, some string, and at least get this close enough so I can roll it around without fighting the tires. And then, like I said, next we're going to do hard lines, fuel tank, fuel pumps, brake lines, transmission lines. That'll be the next video. So for right now, this is a hell of a start. So feeling pretty good about it. I also got some paint to touch up down in there where I was smacking it around. But hey, here's what it is. Anyway, yeah, very happy with this. I think that's pretty much the last of the nerd rod pieces assembled. So of course this rear end is posi, being a Corvette Dana 36. And yeah, that's about it for right now. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope this provided you some decent information.